Hello, everybody, and welcome back to OMB Reviews. I am the critic who is a cynic. How is everyone doing this evening? Happy and blessed Monday, and welcome to episode 543 of the Welcome to Asgard podcast, where tonight we're going to talk a little bit about the Captain America Brave New World Captain Falcon doing really bad numbers. And it's kind of insane that mainstream media pundits are continuing to run with a lot of lies, a lot of misinformation, a lot of, I would even dare say, spin as well. Sorry, I've got a random thing. You ever get those random hairs on your tongue? I don't know. Maybe it's a weird thing that happens when you've got a lot of dogs, but I was just like, oh my goodness, how in the world did that just happen? It's a great way to start the show. But yeah, we'll talk about the Captain America box office because it ain't good. No matter what Tony at Deadline says, no matter what the MCU shills, the MCU stands have to say, it is not boding well. And this is, even if you include the completely hilarious and unserious budget, quote-unquote reported budget of $180 million, even if you were to assume that that is your actual budget, this film is still set to lose money and to not even get close to breaking even at the box office. And that is to put it very lightly and politely as well. So we'll talk about that. We'll also talk about the Raven Awards because the Raven Awards are less than a week away. It kind of crept up on me this year. I don't know exactly how that happened. Maybe it was because we had the Orlando meetup, and then I've had family coming in town last weekend and then going into this weekend as well. So maybe it's just things are a bit more hectic and crazier than usual. But because of that, I was not able to really get set up on the Discord channel any of the watch along parties that I was hoping to. So I'll try and get those set up sometime this week so that way people can watch some of the movies that got nominated that we're not able to see them, especially films like Strange Darling, which a lot of people were not able to see, unfortunately. It's one that I think deserves a little bit more love. Films like Flow, right? I think probably the most beautiful animated movie to come out in 2024, amongst many others that I plan to show on the Discord server. So if you're not joined the Discord server, check out the top link in the video description below that brings you to the link tree, and then you should have a link in there that will bring you to the Discord. So please make sure to be respectful over there. And make sure to make your voice heard and let me know who you are when you jump in. You'll have a lot of people welcoming you with open arms. It's a very awesome community over there on the Discord. So the Raven Awards indeed are coming up. Still time to vote, still the last days to vote. So please make sure if you have not submitted your ballot yet, you do so. Heimdall should be posting that link in the chat throughout the stream. I posted it a little bit before the stream started as well. So you still have time to fill that out. Also, Ravens Bowling is back. So if you don't know what Ravens Bowling is, back in the day when the Oscars, happened again. I don't know where these hairs are coming from. Ugh. Must be a dog thing. I don't get it. Anyway, what was I saying? Oscars bowling, or Ravens bowling. Back in the day, when the Oscars actually used to be relevant, when the Oscars actually used to matter, there used to be something that was fun to do called Oscars bowling, and that's when you would predict what would win in the various categories. And since at the time there were 24 categories at the Oscars, if you put your nomination in and you gave it a point value, for instance, if you decided, you know what, I think I'm very confident Best Picture will win, or this specific movie will win Best Picture, Titanic, the year that Titanic won Best Picture, if you had that a lot of confidence in that movie, then guess what? You could have said, you know what, I'm going to put this in my number 24 spot because that's 24 points worth. If you get that prediction correct, boom, you get those 24 points. And then you have your next most confident answer that you put at the number 23 spot, 22, 21, etc. You do all the way down until the number 1 spot, which is your least confident, because 1 is only worth 1 point, and that's the one that you put in for sound mixing or sound design. Now, again, that's what you used to do at the Oscars because ultimately the Oscars used to be entertaining. They used to be fun, and that stopped a long time ago, long before I even started the Raven Awards. But one of the things that I've been doing is trying to boycott the Oscars the last 7 years. Crazy that we are in the midst of our 7th annual Raven Awards. And the reason why it's called Ravens Bowling is because if you add all those points together and you get all of them correct, it adds up to 300, which means that's a perfect score in bowling. So that is why it's called Ravens Bowling, and at the time it was originally called It was originally called Oscars Bowling, and this was something that I found out from a great movie podcast from back in the day. Unfortunately, they stopped doing podcast episodes a few years ago at this point. It's kind of crazy how long it's been. But Movie BS with Baron Schneider, that's where the idea came from first. And since we started doing the Raven Awards and I try to make sure we had 24 categories, I let that be something that we could do for the Ravens as well. So if you want to make some predictions on what you think are going to win the Raven Awards, which are a bit trickier because you have to have the mind, the wisdom of the crowd. You have to know exactly what the people are thinking, what the people might be voting for en masse. And you have to think of it from that way versus what, elites in Hollywood are going to be voting for, what you would personally want to win in a certain category. But the fun thing is that if you submit a ballot and you get the highest score, then that means that you will be able to get some giveaways. So I'm going to have several movies that I'll be giving away. I need to put them all together so that way you'll have an idea of what is available. But I know one of the films that will definitely be in the giveaways pile for the Ravens Bowling will be Constantine on 4K Steelbook. This edition just came out last week. Very, very cool Steelbook edition there, the 4K copy. This is the 4K and digital code as well, limited edition 4K Steelbook. So that will be in the pile of films that I'll be giving away. So again, that will be this coming Sunday. So it's crazy that this Sunday, the same night as the Oscars, that's why we call it an Oscars boycott show, we'll be having our Raven Awards. And so if you want to find out who will win, who will lose, that is going to be the day for you to sign in. We're going to have a special edition of the Welcome to Asgard podcast on Sunday, starting around the time that the Oscars typically start. So maybe around 7 p.m. Eastern time, 7:15 most likely, since that's usually still when the kids go to bed. And so once the kids are in bed, I will jump on and get things started. And we try to avoid the Oscars talk on that night because we're boycotting the Oscars. We don't care. The Oscars used to mean something, and now they don't. I fully support you watching channels like Film Threat for their insight, for their commentary on the Oscars, and you can support them as they watch it. But we're not going to watch it here, and we're going to try to avoid it if at all possible. So anyway, let's go ahead and jump into the chat. I think I covered all the different topics that we'll be talking about tonight. So first off, we got Bruce hanging out in the chat, 641. Hail to you, Bruce. We got Snortapoopus, Cuber, hello, humans and other quitteth. What's going on, Snortapoopeth? Welcome back. Saying hello. Wayward Noodle, 657, saying hail, chat. Hail to you, Wayward Noodle. Thank you very much for being here. We got Keely Chow hanging out in the chat. What's going on, Keely Chow? Thank you for being here. Everyone is doing swimmingly here. And yes, indeed, absolutely sending prayers in the direction of Tugs. I know that she got into her car accident a few days ago. I don't know the extent to her injuries. I know that it was a lot of damage and that she was very lucky to be in a very safe car that was able to have their, the airbags deployed and to keep her and, to keep everyone safe. So, again, absolutely praying for that Tug life. I don't know how she's doing. I haven't seen a lot of updates at least on Twitter, on X. So I assume that she's okay since she's still posting, but it's still a pretty scary experience nonetheless. And so definitely going to be sending prayers for a full recovery to that Tug life. Again, Tugs, you're awesome. Hope that you get well soon. Wendy Hunter, Wendy, what's going on, Wendy? Saying, hello, chat, and happy Monday. Hello to you, Wendy. Thanks for being here. Thanks for being a member here on the channel. Snorpoop is also a member. Thank you for being a member, good sir. Jimmy A, who's also a member. Hail all in Odin. Hail to you. Thanks for being a member. Thank you for being here. We got Carl Jacobs hanging out. What's going on? Forever Sci-Fi, who is a member. Hail to you. Thank you very much for being in the chats. Let's see. Who else do we have? We got JS Pena tagging. What's going on, JS Pena? The R saying restore the Snyderverse. No. We don't support that nonsense here. How dare you? Kimberly G, who's a member. Absolutely. Kimberly G saying, howdy all, prayers for Tugs. It's been a rough Monday for sure. Absolutely. Sending prayers her way. Prayers for the Holy Father as well. Pope Francis is quite ill. The reporting out of Rome is what you would typically expect. People, and this is where it gets interesting, people who remembered the reporting that occurred when John Paul II was about to die are very much reminiscing about that event because of how they're reporting it here. And so that's why whenever we get these reports that, oh, he's doing okay, or, oh, a slight improvement here or there, or, oh, this is under control, it's like, take that with a giant grain of salt because they play everything very close to the chest, especially the health of the Pope. And so, obviously, whatever your thoughts are on the Pope, we should still be praying for him and for his well-being, and especially for, any conversion that he might need in his life to turn to Christ. Bruce saying, doing well. Hope you are too. I'm doing well, Bruce. Thank you for being here. I appreciate your love and support. We got Laura, the Mother Major General story. What's going on, Shorty Short? Bruce, excited for the Raven Awards. Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed. We got Gary Banjo Sandwich saying, can't figure out bingo. Yeah, I don't know why you can't, Gary Banjo Sandwich Worthington. It's pretty straightforward. I give the instructions in the actual ballot itself. So whichever category you're predicting the winners for, whatever you have the most confidence in, that's the one that gets the number 24 spot. Think of those as points. So 24 points, 23 points, 22 points, etc. So if you guess that one right, you win 24 points. But you can only use each category one time. So if you think, hey, I know what Best Picture is going to be, all right, great. Put Best Picture, BP is the short code for that, and then the name of the movie you think is going to win. I don't know how else to explain it. Again, the instructions are all there, good sir. So if you want to participate, read the instructions, follow them, and submit what you think will win. And if you have one of the highest scores at the end of the night, you might be able to win. All right. Let's see. King and Rumsky, what's going on, good sir? Hanging out over on the Green Machine. Dude, are the Ravens next week already? Seriously, they're this Sunday. They're this coming Sunday. It is insane. We're already in March, or almost in March. That's what's even crazier. Jimmy A saying, definitely praying for Tug. She was one of my fellow Morb heads back in the day. Seriously, we were some of the few that actually liked it. You mean like Morbius? That you actually liked Morbius? Well, that just disturbs me on a whole new level. Morbius is not a good film. I'm kidding. But anyway, I'm glad that y'all enjoyed it. All right. Let us see who else is in here. We got Keely Chow. Spider-Verse is the pineapple pizza of the DC universe. This is true. This is absolutely true. Wendy Hunter said, I did vote, and hopefully I did it right. Okay. Well, that has me concerned. Now I'm going to pull up the Ravens bowling and let me see. Okay. I'm seeing one who put just the codes but didn't put any movie choices. So let me see. Okay, so I think based off of this, it's connecting this. So Wendy, I think you might have to submit one again because you have all of the categories, but then you don't have your movie choice. So it's for instance, for number one, you have WW for worst writing, and so you should have had WW and then the movie that was nominated that you thought was going to win worst writing. And you don't have to put the entire title or everyone's name, by the way, either. I'm not gonna make y'all do anything too crazy. If you want to, use some shorthand for the naming scheme or whatever it might be, that's totally fine too. But since it is for giveaways, I'm going to make y'all work a little bit. So anyway, that's what I'm seeing, in that way. Also, and I know that you must be watching because it's started again. Whoever is spamming the votes, please stop. It really is annoying. So before the stream started, I noticed that it had jumped up from 160 votes to 1,700 votes. So again, it's very clearly spam. And so I had to delete all of them, and now it's back to 2,000. So again, luckily, the sheets that it connects to saves all of the voter information. And luckily, because this person is an idiot, they are doing it all at the same time or roughly the same time. So it's very easy to find those votes and to delete them. It's just incredibly annoying to do so, and it takes away my ability to have really nice charts that I can bring in for the actual Raven Awards themselves. So if you think you're helping by doing this, you're not. Again, it's just incredibly annoying. And if you think it's funny, it's also not funny either. Because, again, I'm just going to delete them, and it's a minor annoyance at most. There's so many more important things in my life that I am worried about. This is not one of them. It's just annoying. So please stop, because it's getting very old very, very quickly. Anyway, I will say that if you are planning on voting anytime soon, you may want to hold off, as I am going to have to go through some of the votes just to make sure that there were no legitimate votes and legitimate submissions that got lost in the struggle. So, yeah, he's doing it again. So, look. Oh, there it is right there. Boom. All right. Shut it off. Good for you. There you go. Can't submit anymore. Some people, man, I tell you. So, hey, if you're trying to vote, you're not going to be able to vote for the next hour or so because someone decided to be a jerk and ruin it for everybody else. All right. Back to the show. Man, it's really just pathetic, too, that's how you want to spend your life. God help you, man. All right, Jimmy A. saying, the Ravens have pretty good noms this year, but a complete unknown deserved more love. I don't think a lot of people really saw it. And honestly, I can't say I blame them for not seeing it. It's a movie by a director that really ticked off a lot of fans by kind of going after them. And it is starring Timothée Chalamet, and not everyone enjoys the movies that he's in, or at the very least, don't think that he as great as some people think that he is. But, there it is. Accidental Tourist, yep, when in doubt, read the instructions. Kim Kane Rumsky over on Green Machine. Speaking of the Pope, do you know of any cardinal who wants to make Catholicism great again? Someone we should keep an eye on going forward. Unfortunately, or maybe fortunately, when it comes to the papal politics, it's very hard to get a grasp on who actually is a papabile, as it's known. Papabile means they're papable, meaning that they are capable of being pope. They've maybe got some pull in the Vatican because of their position. It could also be that they've got just a lot of influence. They've been around a long time, know where the bodies are buried, that kind of thing. So, we have some various names. There's a couple of sites that kind of keep track of it, of who they think are the most papable. Probably the one that's on a lot of people's list as far as being a top contender, not that he's a good choice, is Cardinal Pietro Parolin. He's right now the Secretary of State of the Vatican, I believe. It's a very powerful position to have, and typically it's one that can sometimes lead to the Pope, or at least having influence on who becomes Pope. So be on the lookout for that name, Pietro Parolin, Cardinal Parolin, who I think would likely be a Francis II type personality. So not someone I think that we should have to lead the church in this time right now that we're in, for a lot of different reasons. But again, we are still obviously praying for the health of the Pope, for it to recover. And as far as names, like wish list item names, like people who could be could be the next Pius X, or someone who could really, I wouldn't say make the church great again or anything like that, but someone who is a good holy person who I think we should focus on, it would be Cardinal Sarah. It's spelled Sarah, but Cardinal Sarah. He is an African cardinal, and he has some great books. He has a whole book on silence and the power of silence, and he is a very contemplative person and someone that I think would really be a huge benefit. It's someone that we could all look up to, I think, especially in the spiritual life as well. So, anyway. Wendy Hunter saying, got it, will do. No problem, Wendy. Again, I believe you should be able to submit it again without any problems. Rob D, hello, Odin. I'm going to watch maybe 3 more movies that were nominated. There was just not a lot I wanted to see in 2024. Yeah, I totally understand. There were some good films, though. If you've not seen Flow, especially, I'd recommend that one. Sahil99, love your channel. Thanks for your expos. I'm a huge fan of the Sultan Nerd podcast and as also downloaded Criticless. Now trying to find your page on that app. Thank you for passion and for what we love. Absolutely, Sahil99. Thank you for being a supporter. I always appreciate seeing you in the chat. And on Criticless, I should be listed as Templar Odin. So at Templar Odin. But also just looking up OMB Reviews, I should show up there too. And thank you for joining. Yeah, Criticless is great. I love it. It becomes very addicting. Let's see. Forever Sci-Fi says, put up my first review on Criticless, a silent voice. Might as well put all of that blockbuster experience recommending movies to use. Dude, yes, absolutely, Forever Sci-Fi. Isn't that the animated movie? I think it's on a list of films that I either need to see or I've seen and need to see again. Is it by Makamoto? Oh my goodness, what is his name? The guy that did Your Name. Is it that same guy? Wait, they're saying, I'll do it tomorrow morning. No rush. You have probably until Friday or Saturday. Actually, probably until Saturday to submit the Ravens bowling nominations. The actual nominations form, it'll go live again soon. Again, I do apologize that I had to shut the vote down, but someone is spamming and just being very annoying by doing so. And so it is shut down temporarily until that person, gets a life. Robney, I don't even know who A Complete Unknown is supposed to be about. Bob Dylan, I believe. Raichu, who's a new member of the channel. Raichu, what's going on? What's up, everyone? What's up to you? Welcome. Carl Jacobs, you could have spared the poor snowman the green ears. Otherwise, okay. Hey, made him look like Shrek. All right? It was great. Jimmy A., I've heard a rumor Will Smith might become the Pope. Can you confirm or deny this? I can pretty confidently deny this. The only qualification, the only necessary, the only thing in the actual canon law, the church law about who can be Pope is any baptized Catholic male. So anyone who is a active member of the Catholic Church who has been baptized into the church. Let's see. Hardwick, what is the voting deadline and what date are the Ravens? Same date as the Oscars? As it always is. Hardwick, you've been around for a while now. You should know this. So same night as the Oscars, we go up against it as a boycott. And the voting deadline for the actual ballot will be by this Friday. So I'll give a time when we get closer to it, and hopefully we'll put some safeguards so that the trolling will stop. But yeah, by Friday, so that way it gives me a little bit of time over the weekend to try and get the PowerPoint ready, to get whatever I can for the actual presentation of the awards themselves. And yeah, so get your ballots in by Friday. Forever Sci-Fi, haven't most of the Cardinals been put in by Francis, though? Yeah, but here's the thing. It's not the same as one would think in a political election, right? It's not like he's putting in a bunch of Democrats or a bunch of Republicans or anything like that. He's putting in human beings, and human beings can be influenced by a lot of things and can have change of minds and change of hearts. So it is true that there have been a lot of what we would call progressive cardinals that have been elected, that have been chosen by the Pope to be cardinals. But there's also many still hung over, still carrying over from Pope Benedict XVI, some even from John Paul II. There's also several from Pope Francis's choices that are also good Orthodox persons too. So, it is probably for like every one traditional or more moderate leaning cardinal, there are probably 3 liberal ones. If you actually look at the overall makeup of the College of Cardinals, most of the College of Cardinals at this point is either moderate / what we would call conservative, which is a terrible name. I would say, Orthodox would be a better way to describe it. And, that's probably about almost 2/3 of the Cardinals, of the voting age Cardinals. That's the other thing, is that there's a lot of Cardinals that are being named, but are not going to be of voting age. Once you get over the age of 80, I think it's actually once you hit 80, you can no longer vote in a conclave. So everyone's 79 and younger, that's about 120 Cardinals. They are the ones of voting age. And so those are the ones where you actually see this split happen. So it doesn't mean that they can't be elected Pope. It doesn't mean that they can't have some influence, because they're still in the conclave. They just can't actually vote in it. The R, I wish Bishop Strickland was popeable. Still got to pray for Francis. Yeah, absolutely. And he technically is, meaning he could, legally speaking, become Pope. However, the chances of that are very, 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 very unlikely, because the Pope has been chosen from the College of Cardinals since I don't even remember when. I'm being annoying, but not spamming. Yeah, no. So the spamming was happening in the voting. All right. So the online Google form I have, someone set up some system for it to submit a vote every second, basically. So it's like, bro, I know what you're doing, because literally it's like, oh, submission. It's like, I know those aren't real people submitting those. So come on. Hardwick, have you been watching the new season of Reacher? I've not. I've heard some really good things about it, but have just not had the time to. Or Sci-Fi, yes, The Silent Voice is an animated movie. Naoko Yamada was a director. Oh, okay, I'm thinking of someone. Okay, I'm thinking of someone different then. Shorty Short saying, I would imagine the church disapproves of biatch slapping. Yes, this is true. Not very fond of the violence, so that's why I'm trying to be as cordial as I can towards this person who is spamming the vote. Gary Banjo Sandwich saying, no trans conclave for real, please. And luckily that is not going to happen. So, we could at least have some confidence there. This is not Hollywood. In Hollywood, that can happen. In the real world, that doesn't. Rob D. Jeremy Griggs, who Geeks Gamers, will be the next pope. No, he won't. And the world is better for it. Roman of the Empire. Ahoy, friends. Ahoy to you. Thank you for being here. All right, let's go ahead and dive into... Man, I'm just being reminded of how annoying that troll is. Okay. Let me take care of a couple things on my screen before pulling that up. All right, so, oh man, a lot happened this weekend, guys. A lot happened in the box office this weekend. Specifically, a little movie called Captain America Brave New World dropped 68% in its second weekend of release. Not only did it drop 68% in its second weekend of release, it also ended up falling further behind Ant-Man and the Wasp Quantumania Mania to such a point where it is now 15% behind the domestic total of where Quantumania was at the same point of release. Remember, Quantumania had a same release date 2 years ago. It also got the President's Day release date 2 years ago and did a lot better than the current Captain America movie. So right now, 15% behind where Quantumania was 2 years ago, and 20% behind the international, or the global, I should say, the global total of that movie too. The other thing that's important is that Captain America has already been released in every major market. It had a universal release date with very little separation, maybe a day or two in some markets, but it's been released in every market. So there's not a China waiting to get the release. There's not a Japan waiting to get the release of this movie. There's no major countries left waiting for a release of this movie, which means this is right now the trajectory that the movie is going on, and it is a downward trajectory to quite a large degree. It also is doing so with almost no competition this past weekend, and with almost no further competition going into the next couple of weeks. It's not until we really get into the month of March, so sometime next weekend or the week after, that there's any film that one could even argue could compete for the target audience that this movie is going after. The fact is that either no one's going to see it, or the people that are going to see it don't want to see it more than once. And having seen the film myself, I can completely see why they would feel that being the case. Now, before I actually dive into numbers, there is something important that I have to get out of the way, because even though you have a lot of shills out there, especially Tony at Deadline, amongst many others, who will do all that they can to spin the numbers, to try to explain how everything's actually really, really good, there's only one thing that I have to say, and that's just to get out of the way and let me work.
Time to see a real mathematician at work!
That's right, it's time for the math. All right, so going over to thenumbers.com, as you can see, $289 million is where the film currently sits after 2 weeks of release. Now, it's funny because the mainstream media is running with the, oh man, almost $300 million worldwide in 11, like whatever number or whatever metric they want to put out there. It's like the first 10, 11 days, this is amazing. No, it's actually not. And it's very easy for anyone with a working brain and a little bit of tech know-how. And in fact, in today's world of AI, one could easily say, hey, could you break down how this compares to other films? And it'll tell you exactly the numbers that you need to know. So, Captain America Brave New World, how does this stack up? Well, first off, let's put this up against Ant-Man and the Wasp Quantumania from 2 years ago. Remember, that film ended up being a box office bust because, remember, the budget that was being reported for that movie at the time was $200 million. When the reality is that because of those wonderful UK tax returns and to the intrepid reporting of people like Caroline Reed over at Forbes.com, no, actually the movie really cost $330 million, and that was after the tax incentives that they received. So $130 million more than was initially reported. But no, we're supposed to trust the $180 million number because that's the number that was reported to the trades, and so it has to be real, right? Go to any Marvel film from the last several years that has gotten a UK release, and you will find every single one of them was underreported by at least $100 million. It cost $100 million at least more than what the estimate and what the actual projection was, right? What the actual estimate that was being reported was. So why in the world should we believe that this number isn't any different? There is nothing for us to think or to suggest that anything has changed to such a massive degree that that should be the case. We also can't ignore the fact that this movie did go through extensive reshoots, that the film did go through some test screenings that got a lot of bad reporting, and that the film did indeed get delayed because of the strikes and everything else. So there is nothing, literally nothing on paper that would suggest this movie cost anything close to $180 million. If we're going to be generous, we would have to say at least, bare minimum, $280 million, because that would be about $100 million more, which is about where every other Marvel film the last several years has been when it comes to, again, them actually having to report the truth of their numbers from the United Kingdom tax filings. But in many cases, in this specific case, we would actually argue $100 million probably isn't enough to account for how much funding they had on this movie, because there was other reporting that we got from some people with inside sources. And again, we always take those types of reports with a grain of salt. But hey, they reported the movie costs actually between $350 and $375 $375 million worldwide. Sorry, $350 and $375 million total budget is what the actual cost was. Now, these are budgets. These are not your total cost. These are not including your marketing costs, which typically for Marvel films would be another $150 million added on top. So you're talking about a total cost in the real actual total cost for this movie being closer to between $450 to $500+ million in total spending. When you then take into account that this movie has only made $289 million, guess what? That doesn't get you there. Especially when you remember that, hey, 55% of that domestic number goes to the studio. The rest goes to the theaters. Only 40% of that international number goes to the studio. The rest goes to the different various countries. And then in China alone, where it's made about, $15 million or so. Let me go ahead and pull that up in real time to see what the last reporting was. About $13 million in China last time they updated it. 25% is what studios actually get from anything reported out of China. The rest goes to the Chinese Communist Party in that instance. So when you remember, okay, we're talking about over $500 million worth of cost for this movie, both production and marketing. And then, wait a minute, we've just cut out a lot of the money that's being reported at the box office. Yeah, that movie, guess what? It's nowhere close to actually breaking even. Going over to the charts, because we love Chotzi on OMB Reviews, and I broke this down in the box office breakdown for this past weekend, that I'm projecting the film to make somewhere between $413 and $578 million by the end of its run. But here is the interesting fact. The interesting fact is that that's assuming an average run. That's assuming an average performance. Because ultimately, with where it's currently tracking, 15% domestically behind Quantumania, 20% behind Ant-Man and the Wasp Quantumania in the global numbers. If that separation of 15 and 20% respectively does hold, that means globally, Brave New World only makes it to $370 million. Yeah, I know, that's a very low number for a Captain America movie, for really any MCU movie. It's not to the same degree as The Marvels. The Marvels is by far one of the worst performing MCU films in the history of the MCU. That one capped out around $199 million worldwide. So this would be a lot better than that. But when you remember that the cost is a lot more than what was reported out of The Marvels, and I think we're still waiting on some updated numbers for The Marvels, or The Marvels ended up costing even also a lot more than initially reported, and I don't even know if we have all of those numbers yet, because, we were still waiting on some of those. But the fact is that this movie is going to be one of the worst performing films of this year, and one of the worst performing MCU films. It's going to be in the same breath as a movie like The Marvels is, as a film like Quantumania is, and not like The Avengers, or The Avengers, even Age of Ultron, which is not a great film, but still made a lot of money. It's not going to be the same discussion as a Winter Soldier. It's not going to be the same discussion as pretty much any other MCU movie. So, all that is to say, this movie is on its path to flop. So assuming a $300 million budget, we would then say the break-even point on a typical, historically average 2.5 multiplier, which is really not the current state of Hollywood today. It's closer to a 3 times your budget. So a break-even of the more traditional, if you're going to be conservative with your estimates, on a $300 million budget would be about $750 million worldwide. Okay, that's a far cry from the $450 million number that people are floating around. This is a number that's being perpetuated by, the likes of Tony at Deadline. I think that Tony actually has this number even further down at $425 million, right? Yeah, so this is just hilarious from Tony, by the way. I honestly, I cannot believe how brazen he is being with this. Like, these are just borderline just fake, false narratives he's pushing. He says, despite a B- cinema score and a post-holiday weekend, it isn't imploding to the degree of The Marvels or Quantumania. He's trying to really paint a rosy picture here. It's only a 68% drop, so it's not as bad as that 70% drop, even though the movie is still 15% behind Quantumania's domestic and 20% behind Quantumania's total global totals. Let's not talk about that, Tony. Well, let's paint the rosy picture instead. Still, for a movie that fans don't love, we'll take that hold. I love how he says we. I love how he takes some ownership of this. With its lackluster exits, Brave New World was never expected to float like Deadpool, Wolverine, or Galaxy of the Guardians Volume 3. The pick counts a running total of $289 million worldwide and a break even off of its $180 million production cost at $425 worldwide. Now, here is what drives me nuts. According to Tony, a break even for this movie is 2.3 times its budget. That's right. Even if you assume that $180 million number is correct, and there's no reason to believe that it is, but even if you did, he would still be downplaying by quite a bit what an actual break even for the movie would be. Now, how does he get to a 2.3 multiplier as your break even point is a bit beyond me, especially when the standard used to be 2.5, and the modern standard today is closer to 3 times your budget, depending on where you make your money and other factors. But it's insane that he actually is that brazen to run with that nonsense. Now, I call him out in my box office article over on geeksandgamers.com. If you've not checked that out and you want to have further analysis of this number, I recommend that you check that out for sure. But this is not good. This, no matter how you spin it. The only positive you could say is that the domestic is not being overshadowed by the international to nearly the same degree. The issue, though, is that in a movie situation like this, you want to have a massive international take because then it's able to make up for your weak domestic. But that's not happening here. Right now, we have Brave New World tracking to get under $200 million domestically and potentially under $400 million worldwide by the end of its run. As I said, if the number and the separation between this and Quantumania continues, that's $370 million in global box office. Those are abysmal numbers. And even though Tony would like to say, oh, it's like a 2.3 multiplier. Oh, that's so correct. Look how smart I am. No. In reality, we know that the break-even's actually, because of the real budget being closer to $300 million or more, is actually closer to $750 million. If you're using that old metric, not your 2.3 made-up number. 3 times your budget, more likely the case, meaning at least $900 million to break even. And I know that many speculate that costs for not only the movie being more than $300 million and the marketing being even more than $150 million based off of a $300 million budget, that would actually push the break even closer to $1 billion, which would make a lot of sense to me. But let's just be, again, as conservative as we can with these numbers, as fair as we can. Those are projections for again, if you are assuming a 2.5 multiplier, a $100 to $200 million loss. Now, we know that the numbers are a lot worse than that. And so right now, you're looking at a movie at $315 million in the red. $315 million in the red. In a best case scenario with where this film is currently tracking, we're talking about over $250 million in losses. That would make it the front runner for worst box office flop of 2025. That would put it actually ahead of movies like Gladiator 2, which was already a massive flop in its own right with over $130 million in financial losses. But man, oh man, we knew that the numbers wouldn't be good. We knew that this film was going to suffer. But I don't think any of us could have projected or predicted that would have been to this degree. And despite what Tony at Deadline wants to say, no, this is not good. This is not good, especially for the theaters that are suffering tremendously because of nonsense like this. Anyway, those are the box office numbers. Let's get to that $5 super chat from Raichu. Sorry it took me a while to get to you, Raichu, but appreciate your super chat nonetheless. Saying, hello, Odin, any interest in watching Ninja 2? No, I have no interest at all. And the big reason why is because I honestly don't trust anything coming out of China these days. And the fact that this movie has made $1.8 billion in China alone has made me very suspect. Because whenever China reports numbers like that, and they've reported large numbers for their films before, I can't believe it. I can't buy it. And I know people say, oh, but there's so many people in China, and if even X percentage of them go to see, that's a lot of people that they're claiming have gone to see this movie. I'm not saying it's impossible, but when China's involved, and if the CCP is involved, and since it's a film from China, locally made in China, it's going to have CCP involvement. I'm going to have a lot of doubts about that. So, no, I actually have no interest in Ni Jia 2. Maybe I'll end up seeing it as a way of just, having a better understanding of what the movie is, if it's any good, or if a lot of people start to talk about it as being a good movie. But in general, I have no interest, but appreciate you nonetheless. Guy at 748, what's going on, Guy? Saying, do you know Andor is now doing 3 episodes every week now? No, and I don't care. Andor was not a good show. It was boring as all get out, and I cannot believe it actually got a season 2. Master of Gaming, what's going on? Forever Sci-Fi, Jeremy would love to wear the hat, though. Anything to cover his bald head, that is for sure. Hardwick, so what's the earliest date that it's wise to vote on? You said it might be best to hold off because you had to do something to stop the spamming. I mean, it would have been great to have voted already, but if you're holding off until the very end to try to see as many things as you can, then I would say, again, by the latest, it would be Friday. Again, Friday by probably Friday evening at some point. So I'll probably cut off around 10 p.m. or so. So I would say if you want to submit your ballots, try submitting them after the stream ends. Hopefully I can clean it up pretty quickly and reopen the link. But yeah, it's getting really annoying. And let's just say that next year I'll definitely have to have some voting protocols so that you have to have like an email address. And I don't want to do that because there's some people that don't want to share that kind of information. There's just no other thing I can think of to stop people from doing that kind of nonsense. Master of Gaming, what's the most nominated movie at the Raven Awards in general, not just this year? In general, I honestly could not say. I know that Deadpool has a lot of nominations this year, but there have been typically every year, there's at least one film that kind of eats up a lot of the nominations. Andrew Hayes, hello to you. Wendy Hunter, is it bad that I don't feel bad that Captain America is failing so bad? No, because after all the nonsense that's been pushed on us for so many years, and honestly, the fact that we're being gaslit by so many mainstream media personalities and people that used to be like kind of friends of our community who are just buying into like the lies and the propaganda. No, I think it absolutely is something that we should be like, hey, yeah, this is something that is, it's a good thing. It's a good thing that this movie's bad. This movie's doing poorly because first, it's a bad movie. It's not a well-made movie. So it's good when bad movies do poorly because, hey, they have to know. They have to be told, and financially is how the only way that's actually going to make it through to them, that their movie was not good and that they did not put in the right kind of effort and that they did not make a movie that people actually wanted to go see. There's a cost for the nonsense that you push forward. Carl Jacobs, do you still think Captain America will lose more money than Snow White? I mean, I've always said that it's going to depend on the budgets, all right? So if Captain America's budget is closer to $300 million, it would really depend on what Snow White's budget is, because I know that movie has also had some reports that the budget could have been a lot and could have ballooned quite a bit as well. Budget for Snow White. I wonder if we have any updates on that. See, World of Real is reporting, now they're the same ones that reported that $350 to $375 million number for Captain America. So they are reporting $300 million for the movie. Whereas, let's see, Caroline Reed. Okay, so these are, I think, numbers that we should take a lot more stock in. Caroline Reed is reporting $270 million is what Snow White spent on the movie. So, man, oh man, oh man. Let's go ahead and pull that up real quick. Since it's been brought up, that's so great. I love the reporting of Caroline Reed. She's like one of the only persons in the media that's actually doing anything. So this is from November of last year. Disney reveals Snow White remake is set to blow its budget. Disney has revealed that the cost of making its live-action Snow White ballooned to $269.4 million by the end of 2023, putting it on course to blow its budget more than a year before the release. So yes, this was, again, before the end of 2023. We're in 2025 now. So what were they doing with this movie in 2024? It likely is ballooning quite a bit. Disney's revealed that the cost of making its live-action remake of Snow White has ballooned to $269 million by the end of 2023, putting the movie on course to blow its budget more than a year before its release. It casts a dark spell on the outlook of Disney's entertainment segment, just as it was showing signs of improvement. For the past 5 years, its bottom line has been dragged down by losses from the Disney Plus streaming platform, which finally reported its first profit earlier this year, allegedly. It coincided with the end of a string of bad luck at the box office, as Disney currently occupies the top 2 spots on the ranking of this year's highest grossing films. Obviously, this was back with Moana. You also had the numbers. You actually had, so you had the numbers for, oh my goodness, for Inside Out 2, which were massive for Disney, Deadpool Wolverine, which were massive, and then Moana ended up being massive also. This reports its fourth quarter earnings today, and analysts are expecting earnings per share to increase to $1.11 from 82 cents a year ago, while revenue is projected to rise to $22.49 billion from 21.24. Okay, whatever. Snow White won't contribute to that until it's released in March of next year. Clouds have already gathered over the movie, as it's been blasted by critics who claim that Disney is trying to attract woke viewers. And I think there is obviously a lot of things to be said there. So, again, this is what was being reported back in 2024. And these were numbers that were reported for 2023. Now, based on the fact that euros is the number being used here, I'm wondering if this is another one of those UK releases where we'll get the actual figures. So we're talking about a movie that probably cost also north of $300 million. So, yeah, I think Snow White is likely to make less than Captain America, Brave New World. So if you had to ask me right now, which I think is going to make more money, I would say I think Snow White will be the biggest loser between those two, if I had to guess. All right. I want to make sure I get to his super chat early this time. So, Raichu, thank you for another $2 super chat. And his question is, has Jeremy ever won Shill of the Year? Yes, he has won Shill of the Year before, which is always a fun topic to bring up. So the quick answer is yes. So actually what you can do, and I'll pull this up on the screen as well for anyone else that has a question. So thank you for that question. But for anyone else who has other questions related to the Raven Awards, so first off, you can go to my website, ombreviews.com. It's very bare bones. I'm not a fancy guy. But if you hover over Raven Awards, you'll see that a bunch of the previous years pop up. So if you go back to last year's, for instance, you can pull that up. You have the actual video replay that you can go to. Crazy how early it was last year, right? The actual nominations themselves. Or sorry, I'm going crazy here. It wasn't too early. Anyway, the Raven nominations video. You also have the Raven Awards, the 6th annual Raven Awards back in March of last year. And then you also have this little slideshow that goes through the winners from last year. So for the quotes, kind of crazy that this was already last year's awards, I should say. God's Children Not for Sale for Sound of Freedom. Sound of Freedom was a big winner. So you see these charts right here? That is what that person is ruining, by the way. And also, we are set to break last year's total votes. Now, that's now been hampered because the person wants to be a jerk and, spam. But anyway, that's the pie chart I won't be able to put in to my slideshow this year. For Best Stunts, it was Mission Impossible 7. For Best Animated, it was Super Mario Brothers movie, which I was not a big fan of, but hey, the people voted on that. NBC was Rachel Zegler, so she was nominated again this year. Best Visuals went to Godzilla -1. Best Cinematography went to Kozo Shibasaki for Godzilla -1. Godzilla -1 had a great representation. Obviously, Barbie got most SJW screenwriters. Director went to Takashi Yamazaki for Godzilla -1. Very happy with that. Best Fight Scene went to John Wick 4, the Osaka fight sequence. Still a great fight sequence. Breakthrough Performance went to Zac Efron for The Iron Claw, which made me very happy because it was a great performance from him. Very underrated movie also. Worst Writing went to Indiana Jones, Dial of Destiny. Iconic Film went to Godzilla -1. Very happy to see that there. Most Pointless Character went to Helena Shaw from Indy 5. Shill of the Year last year was Jeremy of Geeks and Gamers. So, long story short, yes, he did win last year. And as you can see, it was actually pretty close. So he had 20.5% of the vote. Taylor Swift had a large share of the vote. John Campea has been nominated the most every year. In fact, he's been nominated. He has never won So I'd always say, I think it's time for John Campea to win his award. So here are some of the other winners, but you can also go back. So some of the previous years, before I did slideshows and before I did PowerPoints, I had it where it was a little bit easier to see. Let me see, because some people say that Jeremy has actually won twice. I forgot if he had actually won. So, oh man, that was the year Top Gun Maverick. That's right. Frost won NPC of the year that year. Man, oh man. So let me see. Oh. It's trying to load through these things. Let's see. Film of the year, pointless character, show of the year. Oh, wait, he did win. Oh, man, Jeremy did win 2 years in a row. What do you know? He did win in 2022. Also, I love that that's the picture that comes up when you search for him. I just try to find like the best, quote, the best picture of every person that I could try to find. Actually, I really do enjoy the picture I found for John Campea this year. I'm actually very proud of that one. The 2024 awards. Here's the slideshow for the nominees. I think it's a great year of nominees as well. So Rachel Zegler got nominated again. Grace Randolph got nominated again. Then you have other people like Kamala Harris, which to me is like, okay, but I feel like, why are we going to give her a win in anything? I think that she should even lose a race like this. All right. But yeah, I love these. I love the nominations this year. And let's get to Shill of the Year. So again, Jeremy won twice in a row. This year, Chris Stuckman has made a comeback to get into the nomination process. Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson has gotten into the discussion. For some reason, I got nominated. Lord knows why. And then I found this great picture of John Campea. So I think it should be Campea's year. That would be me. But obviously, I cannot control your vote. And we do respect the votes here. Thank you again, Raichu, for that super chat. All right, let me jump back into the chat. All right, let's see. Tomani3905, welcome. Says here, hello, longtime fan, but first time live viewer, sick from work. Well, hey, thank you for being here. On a serious note, did you ever review The Gorge? If so, what did you think? Haven't seen it, but it intrigues me. Yes, I finally saw it yesterday, and then I finished it this morning. I put my review up on Critic Lists, and so if you want to have more of my full thoughts, you can check it out over there. In general, though, I gave it a rad score. I gave it a 7 out of 10, 70% rad score for me. I understand. I just saw Critical Drinkers review earlier today, and every criticism he lays out there is almost completely legitimate. There's one issue he brings up where he asks the question of why, like, basically calling into question of, like, why would anyone, like, take the job or something to that effect. And I thought to myself, I mean, they do try to kind of lay out in the setup for it that these are people that, feel a level of trust with the persons that are kind of bringing these things up to them, or at the very least with Miles Teller's character. I thought that the performances from them were great. I love their chemistry. I love them working together. I wish it had been a tighter story. I think it could have been a lot better of a story, and unfortunately, it doesn't really hit those notes. But I liked it. I liked it a lot. There's definitely some issues, and if you want to hear a more critical take on it, I would recommend Critical Drinkers review. And I think most of his criticisms are legitimate. But yeah, I definitely would say it's a good film that I enjoyed quite a bit. Not a perfect film by any means, though. Rob D says, say what you will about Captain America Brave New World, but I'm glad the Marvel still holds the title of lowest grossing MCU movie. Oh yeah, absolutely. And what's funny too is that you could potentially see more financial losses from Captain America because of the budget situation. I'd have to go back and look at what the total budget was for the Marvels. Kikain Rumsky, one more Catholic question, if I may. Did you hear the rumor that Obama administration got Pope Francis installed? Thoughts, comments, concerns? Yeah, I mean, that kind of falls into the conspiracy theory stuff that I just stay away from. Because I know people say, like, oh, but so many of the conspiracies turn out to be facts. It's like, yeah, some of them, but not all of them. And there really is no evidence of that. So there is evidence of a group called the San Gallen Mafia. It's a fun title and a fun name. So if you want to find out more about them, you can look up San Gallen Mafia. There's a guy, Dr. Taylor Marshall, who wrote a book called Infiltration. He has a lot of information that can be verified. There's some speculation still to even what he has to say, but there is at least more verification in that. that there was a group of cardinals that came together to try to prop up someone in the voting process. And that person was Bergoglio, who ended up taking the name Francis, who is our current pope. So that is the furthest I would go conspiracy-wise. So there was a plan to elect him. There was a plan to install him as pope, but he was elected still, all right? Because they still had to convince a lot of the cardinals, because you need 2/3 of the entire cardinals to become pope, and clearly they did that. So even though the way they got there was still a bit, nefarious, you still can't deny the fact that, it was a legitimate process. Until there's actual evidence saying otherwise, we go with that. Anyway, Laura, math, absolutely. Or in chat, sorry I'm late, got lost in a 1,000-piece puzzle. Hey, man, a good puzzle. Everyone loves the math. Caveat ties. What's up, Caveat? Welcome back. Steven, good afternoon, Odin. Today, my first day of spring semester at college. Let's hope I meet a beautiful lady here. Dude, I think that you need to, I think that you need to maybe go into a monastery. I think you're just a little bit too obsessed with trying to find somebody. I understand it. I get it, man. But I think that type of mindset might be what has led you down some bad paths before. Always going to break it down, Laura. Always going to do it. Andrew Hayes. Hello again. I haven't seen any movie in the conventional theaters since late last year, but did see Nosferatu on streaming last night. I think people could be done with theaters. Yeah, I mean, there's still people that show up, though. I mean, the billion-dollar films that come out show us that people still do want to be entertained in a theater. The bigger issue is Hollywood. So I would say if anything's done, it's not the theater-going experience. It's the Hollywood machine pumping out specific kinds and types of movies that cost them, an arm and a leg and don't actually give them any return on their investment. King and Rumsky, that's the stuff. Absolutely. Absolutely. Steven, did you see the trailer for Andor 2? It was ruined by rock band music. Man, Disney's out of touch. I have not seen it. I have no interest in it. So I assume that we'll either have to watch it for Friday Night Tights or we will watch it on Friday Night Tights. I could care less about Andor. Geek True 64, I'm late, but I made it. Geek True 64, happy to have you here, good sir. Shout out to him. You did a great video the other day breaking down your most anticipated. There's some on there I disagree with. All right, I don't know why Avatar is in your top 3, top 4 most anticipated movies. You disgust me with your obsession with visual quality and visuals in general. How dare you? How dare you, Geek True 64? Much love to Geek True 64, man. It is a great video, though. I would recommend everyone check it out. All right, let's see. Roman of the Empire says, that is such an absurd amount of money to produce a thing that has exceedingly limited appeal. This is far from a classic. The classics cost far less and have a lasting legacy. I mean, there's some classics that did cost quite a bit. We think about some of the epics of their time. If you adjust for inflation, they spent quite a bit of money on those. But there was clear passion there, and they put their hearts and souls and sometimes even risked their very lives to put forward their productions, and that just didn't happen. It's just not happening in general for a lot of movies that are being put forward today. Wendy Hunter saying Tony should have been nominated for Shill of the Year. Dude, Tony is working his way towards a future nomination of Shill of the Year. Remember that after next Sunday, all right, Sunday, after the Oscars and our Raven Award boycott show, we'll probably open up pretty quickly the nominations form for next year's Ravens. And so, since it's still fresh in the mind, one could easily put forward a name like Tony from Deadline. Core member 123, Tony is just an idiot if he thinks that they spent only $180 million. He's an idiot for a lot of reasons, okay? It's a double factor there. So not only is he perpetuating the $180 million lie, which, I mean, as a mainstream, media personality, okay, you're going forward with the narrative that's been that's been given to you, that's been fed to you by the studio. Okay, good for you, dog, right? Go ahead and have a seat, shake, roll over. Okay, I understand. You gotta do what you gotta do sometimes in that industry. The most egregious element of what Tony said, though, was trying to suggest that it's only a 2.3 multiplier to break even. I honestly, I'm still trying to figure out how in the world he ever got to that figure. Because I know there's people who debate, is it a 2.5 or a 3 times or even a 3.5 multiplier for your movie? And again, there's a range there. It depends on, do you make more money domestically or internationally? Since you get a lot less back internationally, if you have a massive international movie with a very small domestic footprint, your break-even point actually goes up a bit because you have to make up for the lost money and the lost revenue that you're making from those international markets. So there has to be a balance between those two things. There's also marketing considerations, right? Did you spend more than your typical marketing costs on your movie? Disney tends to spend a lot more than other studios do on their movies. But to get to a 2.3 multiplier, you have to, based on everything that I've seen, everything that I've covered over the years that I've been doing this now, I've never seen someone come up with something like that. It really is crazy. And so the only thing I'm left to assume is that either he is a complete bought and paid for shill for Disney, or he's incompetent. And I don't think he's incompetent completely. But I also don't have evidence that he is on the take from Disney either. It's very hard. I think also, too, the other factor here is the fact that they know this number pretty much can never be disputed. Like, look to the history of all MCU movies. With the exception of these MCU United Kingdom releases, there's never been a change of budget on any of them. And that goes for most movies, in fact, right? Every time that there's a movie that comes out, that gets released, there's these reported budgets from the major studios that come out, and we always just assume that they're true. We always just take their word for it. We've usually had very little reason to question it. It's like, well, yeah, they're just telling us how much they spent on their movie. Okay. But in the era that we're now in of Disney and of financial disclosures and of the COVID nonsense, delays, all that stuff, we know now that these budgets are ballooning quite a bit. And it's only because of the UK financial disclosures that we actually have any knowledge that they spent so much more or that much more than what they initially told people. Keep in mind, I don't know if y'all realize how much money was spent on Quantumania. When you are telling people the trades, the deadlines of the world, the varieties of the world, when you are telling them, oh yeah, we spent about $200 million on this movie, production budget, but then it turns out that no, you actually spent $330 million. You're almost doubling the cost there. You basically lied and said it was half or almost half of what the actual cost was, the actual budget was. It's crazy. It is insane. And yet we're supposed to just buy this number that they're throwing out there of $180 million? There's a heck of a lot more credibility to a person over at World of Real than there is for Disney right now, if we're talking just about credibility. But Lord, man, Tony's lost it if he thinks that a movie has a 2.3 multiplier to break even. Orange Hat saying, my guess was that Cat 4 would lose $250 to $300 million, hoping it stays in that area. Yeah, it's looking like it's probably going to lose about that much money too. It was really fun. I posted this on social media earlier, on X earlier, on Twitter, and I was playing with the AI there, Grok. All right, very fascinating AI, very powerful AI too. And one of the things that I always appreciate with AI, and again, AI I think is a very dangerous animal for a lot of reasons. The thing I appreciate about it is its ability to compute and to compile and to break numbers down in a very mathematical way and in a very quickly too. And so I was playing around with some of the numbers and asking it to kind of extrapolate from data and from information. And one of the fascinating things was, I was saying, okay, let's just take the numbers that we got from Quantumania and let's look at their first 2 weeks to eventually where they got in their total. If we have a same exact type of result, same type of drop off, where could we expect this movie to go? And it was fascinating because it was saying, oh yeah, it could make anywhere between $370 million and $415 million based on those metrics. And it was kind of fascinating to think about, oh wow, it really could potentially only make $370 million if it continues to be 15% behind domestically and 20% behind globally. It's crazy. Accidental Tourist saying, YouTube considers this a popular channel, Odin. I'm getting loads of commercial interruptions. Well done, young man. I try to put it on the most conservative setting, Accidental Tourist, right? I apologize for that. I have ads on only because, and monetization on only because it helps to fund my hobby. and this is a fun thing for me to do. But I do apologize for any interruptions that it might cause. I do have it set to the most conservative setting, though. Unfortunately, YouTube's definition of conservative is probably not very accurate, which doesn't really surprise me all that much. Really old movies. Sup, everyone? What's going on? Guy, do you think the next 2 Avengers movies will hit $2 billion? Do you mean like $2 billion each? Or like $1 billion each? Based off of what we're seeing for Captain America, I don't think any of the films so this really puts a target on Fantastic Four. I think Fantastic Four has the potential to do a lot better than this one. I really do. I think that some of the name recognition and some of the, built-in / manufactured hype is a bit more for Fantastic Four. Also, time of year is a major factor there too. So I could see Fantastic Four doing better than this movie. But that's not saying a whole lot, right? When we're in the era of these movies costing as much as they do, if you're only making it to $500 million, $600 million at the box office, those really aren't enough to make up for your total costs. So, no, I don't think an Avengers movie is going to do that because you can put the Avengers name on it, but it's clear. It used to be that the MCU, just having Marvel on your title, having the MCU in your promotions, would guarantee you a certain fan base. That fan base has been demolished. And it's not looking like it's coming back. So, let's see. Tomani, or is it too many? Tomani. 3905. Thank you very much for the $10 tip on Streamlabs. Appreciate you, good sir. That circumvents YouTube. YouTube ain't getting none of that money. So I appreciate it. Thank you very much for the $10 tip. No message attached to it. But I appreciate you, man. Thank you. Laura, Jeremy is bald? What? It's always fun to think about. Guy, in China, when you buy from the ticket app, updates the daily box office in real time. So they say. Again, I don't trust anything out of the Communist Party and the communist regime in China. Geek True 64. I have to disagree about Andor. I loved it, but I also understand not liking it. I was able to binge it. I can see it being too slow, waiting week to week. Oh man, you sound too much like Mr. Kadish. All right, Matthew Kadish of the Salty Nerd crew, someone I stream with every week on Saturdays, Salty Saturday stream. He was all about saying, okay, but you have to watch 3 at a time because that's kind of how they were made to be watched. And I don't care how many episodes I'm supposed to watch. If I'm already bored in episode 1, why would I want to go straight to episode 2? That's the issue, is that individually each episode was boring. So again, I appreciate people who like it. Again, more power to you. I can't take away what you enjoy. But man, it was boring as all get out. Hardwick, how good is Transformers 1? I've heard good things about it, but the bits I've seen have annoying dialogue. I really liked it. Now, that should mean a lot because I am not a fan of almost any of the Transformers movies. I don't even like the original Shia LaBeouf movie, like the OG one from 2007. I think that one's vastly overrated, and it's one that does not age, that has not aged well, in my opinion. Now, is it the best of all the Transformers live action? Sure. But that's also not a very high bar either. This is, in my opinion, the best Transformers film I've seen, personally. And it's a rad film. I gave it a rad score over on Critic Lists. Let's see here. Jimmy A. Snow White might be one of the biggest bombs in history. Disney has buried this movie, and I have not seen a trailer in the theaters yet. Yeah, I mean, Snow White could do Marvel's level. Could do the Marvel's level. The only thing that could make it higher, honestly, is Gal Gadot. I don't think that she's a huge box office draw, but I think there's enough people that would want to see Gal Gadot on screen. I'm going to be honest there. Shorty Short, speaking of Transformers, have you seen the Decepticon at Universal Studios who insults everyone getting their photo with him? It's pretty hilarious. Yes, I have. And yes, it's very, very funny. It made the rounds on social media. Justin C. Hey, I'm guessing the Minecraft movie is the next big budget film to flop after Snow White. I mean, I don't know if it's the next one, but I don't see the Minecraft movie making money. I just can't see it. I don't see how any kid could watch that and think, yep, that's Minecraft and I want to see it. Biggest issue is that they're trying to appeal to an audience that just wants to stay online and play. That's the other issue too, right? It'd be like if they made a Fortnite movie. Yeah, you might, if it's a good movie and if it's well made and well marketed, you might get some of that audience out there. But most of them are going to be like, why would I want to go to a movie theater when I could just stay at home and play my game? I mean, that's kind of the sad state of our world today. That's why a lot of young people are not as avid moviegoers. There's still some out there, but... Jeremy is our favorite shill around here. I can see that. Wendy Hunter saying, I'm super excited because this year is my first time footing for the Ravens. Last year, I hit send instead of delete. Oh, okay. That's okay. Carl Jacobs, time for the final push to get you over the top for shill of the year. Well, again, I do apologize that the ballot is down currently because of trolls. We had some trolls earlier. Rather, I think it's a singular troll, personally, who's just being a jerk, who had to, cause some issues there. But I will try to open it up every now and then just to see if the nonsense is continuing or if I need to fix something. So I would say maybe hold off on submitting a vote right now. Maybe wait for a few minutes after the show, just so that I could try to make sure I can, again, to the best of my ability, take care of all the troll votes. Raichu, I actually voted for Campia this year. Good. I mean, he honestly deserves it. Harvey, did you hear that Dwayne Johnson is playing a crime boss in a Scorsese movie? If anyone can get him to give a different performance than usual at Scorsese, I would agree. I don't have high hopes, but if anyone could do it, it absolutely would be him. That is a true statement. Let's see. Steven, Lent season almost here. What's the hardest thing you let go and accomplished for 40 days? Oh, man. I think that the biggest... If you mean like in history, there was a year I went meatless for the entirety of Lent. That was probably the toughest one. In hindsight, it was the one I was, impressed by, but it was also not very wise because I was not supplementing it for a lot of other stuff. So not a very wise decision. So I've been a lot more methodical with those things that I try to focus on. I don't talk too much about what I do every year because it kind of defeats the purpose. It's like it's not supposed to be a public thing. Justin C. Sad it feels like there isn't any film worth heading into the theater for until The Final Reckoning in May. There's a couple things. Mickey 17 looks good. I think Mickey 17 looks really good. So I'm excited for that one. Geek364 saying, I 100% agree with your review of The Gorge. It's good, not great. I thought The Drinker was overly critical. I agree with some of his critiques, but some I thought were stretching. Yeah, as I said, most of his critiques I thought were pretty legit, and I could understand why someone would make them. There was really like one or two where I thought, I don't know about that. Like he went into like the motivations for the characters and said that they didn't make sense, but I thought, but there is a way of understanding this. There is a way of explaining this. Like, why would they only have one person on each side? It's like, well, because they're trying to limit the amount of people that know about the Gorge. By having a whole team there, you up the liability. So it actually makes a lot more sense to have less people there. And so, again, I thought that there were responses to the critiques like that. But in general, he had some pretty good ones. Okay, YouTube me. I'm not going to go into conspiracy stuff, and you didn't tag, so I wasn't going to respond to it anyway. All that I asked is you put at Odin at the very beginning of your comments if you want me to see them and to load them up. If you're a member on the channel, then that's all you have to worry about. Abomination lost track of time. Abomination, how dare you? If anybody did the books, they'd see $180 million for the budget of Comrade Falcon, and then, coincidentally, around the same time, the studio lost $200 million without producing anything. Yes. Now, because they get a tax credit for Georgia, part of me wonders if there would be a way for someone either in the state or otherwise to be able to maybe request that information, kind of like with the UK. I think the big difference is that for the individual state tax credits, they only, I think, have to report what they spend in that one state. So if they film in multiple locations, they don't have to talk about anything else. In the United Kingdom, why we were able to find out the truth about Marvel and how much they spend and their spending problem is because the law demands they have to say, okay, you have to tell us everything you spent, regardless of where it was, and then specify, here's what we did here, because they want to make sure everything's being accounted for so that they actually give you the tax credit you deserve and that you're not trying to, game the system, basically. Which actually, is a system I support if it means we find out how much Disney's actually spending on their movies. Jimmy A. With the amount of money spent on Phase 5 of the MCU, we could have probably cured world hunger and created somewhat decent society. That's a great point. Rob D. There needs to be a Doohy established Department of Hollywood Efficiency and put Mel Gibson in charge of it. Wouldn't that be amazing? That'd be great. Orange Chat. Oh, and I think there ought to be a full audit of Disney entertainment industry to find out if they were trying to hide or diminish their losses. If so, I believe they should be shut down. I would disagree with that, man. Because, again, who's going to shut them down? I don't want the government to have the power to shut down any business, right, in general. It's one thing if the government's going after, criminals that impact, children or things like that. But, I mean, penalties, yes, I think that would be legitimate. But to shut them down, I guess I don't like the language of that. I think that you probably assumed, or I think you probably meant to say, that they're shut down because they have so many fines and penalties or whatever it might be. But I would never want them to get, shut down by a government agency. I don't know. I don't trust that. Foundation, the next two Avengers movies might hit $2 billion in 2200 AD money. Yep. Jimmy A. The only way the Avengers movies would make $1 billion is if the really play up Tom Holland Spider-Man, slap him at the front of every poster and show him the most in the trailers. I mean, they could make $1 billion Avengers movie if they basically tried to replicate what they did in Spider-Man No Way Home. Imagine if they had at the forefront the 3 Peter Parkers. I'm going to say that right now. Some of you have probably gotten over it to the point where this is not going to mean anything. But if a trailer started off with Tobey Maguire, his Spider-Man, going straight to Andrew Garfield's Spider-Man, and then, phasing into Tom Holland's Spider-Man, and then all 3 are working together, and they're the ones that are kind of in charge of this. Imagine an Avengers film where the 3 Spider-Men are kind of at the forefront. I don't know. Something tells me that could bring in a lot of people and potentially make a lot of money. Now, I don't know the comics, and so I don't know if there's a story there or if it's been done before to that extent. But, yeah. Sacre Bleu, the deadly poke of Zorro. What's up, Sacre Bleu? Hello, Odin. Rather have my gums shredded by a bowl of Captain Crunch without milk than watch. I would rather have my gums shredded by a bowl of Captain Crunch without milk than watch Captain Falcon. My goodness. Tamani, oh, thank you, man. I really do appreciate it. Kiki Rumsky, do you have any other hobbies other than movies? No, movies pretty much my main hobby. I mean, I make rosaries, as many of you know. My full-time job is teaching, which I love. Movies and TV are pretty much the most of what I do hobby-wise. I'm a collector, obviously. But yeah, those are the main things. Guy, could you rank the Cobra Kai seasons from worst to best? Not off the top of my head. I mean, I think season 1 would be probably the best. And I would probably put the last season down towards the bottom. As a season, I don't think it was a great season. I think that's mostly because of how they split up the episodes. I hated how they split up the episodes. The last episode's great, though, all right? So at least it ends on a high note. Justin C., have you seen the season 2 premiere of 1923? If so, your thoughts? I have not. I stopped watching 1923, okay? Once it spent a little bit too much time on this garbage narrative about Catholic priests and native tribes. And it infuriated me because I thought, okay, am I saying that in history there's never been a corrupt Catholic priest or nun before? No. However, at this time in history, when there's been so many lies put forward about the church, all I could think of was, oh, this is feeding right into the nonsense that Canada was spewing about how there were these mass grave sites of natives, and there were these mass grave sites where the Catholic Church's schools were, and it turned out, actually, no, that's not true at all. And because of that reporting, churches were burned, and people were attacked, and all kinds of destruction happened because of a lie. And 1923 it felt like it was stepping into that same lie to perpetuate it instead of telling a good story that is based in reality and could be good. I did not like how that was presented. So it's one of the few shows that he has done that I've hated. Like, there was a part that I just hated. Like, everything else he's done, 1883, I thought was a great show. That's one I wish could have gone on more. But the way the story goes, it's supposed to be kind of a single season. 1923, there's some good things in there for sure. But I gave up on it because of the whole Catholic storyline. I thought it was terrible. Guy, Minecraft is the most popular game of all time. People might see Jack Black playing Steve. No, they won't. Bro, I'm telling you right now, if you think Jack Black as Steve is going to bring kids who play Minecraft out to go see a movie, I don't know what you're smoking. Abomination, if anyone doesn't know about Minecraft and sees the movie, they're going to be disappointed when they see the screenshots of the video game. Yeah, seriously. Wendy Hunter, last year I had just started watching your channel on the Raven Awards show, so this year I got to vote. Oh, yeah, that's right, Wendy. Wendy, that's right. I forgot that was like the introduction. Oh, that's awesome. Guillermo Gage from the Green Machine. Nisha making $2 billion in China is like a movie making $500 million in the United States. Like 22 movies did this. Due to the population size difference, if tickets are about the same price. I'm not saying it can't happen. I'm not saying it's impossible that the numbers are true. I'm just saying I don't believe it. I don't trust it. I do not trust reporting that comes out of China. I don't know how else I can word that. Because the response would be, oh, so you trust numbers that were put forward by the Communist Party of China? I think there's more, there's a lot more questionability to that kind of a mindset than to mine. I'm just saying. When you say it out loud, it's someone who questions the numbers that come out of China versus someone who believes the numbers that come out of China. I think that hopefully puts it into perspective. Michael Burgett, I'm looking forward to next month and a lot of underrated indie or smaller budget films being released in the theaters. Yeah. There's a couple I need to catch up with the stream, Film Threat stream from last week because they're my go-to for indie films. They're great in their coverage. Guy, you think Mickey 17 will make a lot of money in March since March looks like a dead month this year? I mean, just because there's not competition does not mean movies make money. People have to be driven out to the theater. Mickey 17 could make money. I don't know if it's not gonna be a huge hit. It's not gonna be $1 billion film. All right. I mean, Bong Joon-ho is not known for making films that make a ton of money. So I think that it'll do well. I don't know what the budget is on that movie yet. But I think it could do well. Will it do well? It still remains to be seen. I don't think the projections are too high for it. Orange Chat, my New Year's resolution is no pizza and candy for an entire year. I think that can be included in Lent. And so far, I'm proud to say I've kept my resolution. Very nice. No, you should think of something else for Lent, but I do appreciate that nonetheless. Hardwick, maybe for the next Lent, you could give up not eating pineapple. No! How dare you? How dare you? Guillermo Gage, I don't know why it posted twice. Maryland sacrifices eating pineapple pizza on Fridays. That will test me. Oh, man. That's a penance, man. Orange Chat, and I'm not talking about the government. I'm talking about the bank they are beholden to. Foreclosed on. Wait, what? I'm sorry. I need the context. I've already forgotten. I should believe they should be shut down. Oh, okay. That the bank foreclosed. Oh, okay. I mean, but that's just, I don't think that would ever happen in general. I mean, there's keep in mind, if they were to do that, the bank would also be a massive loser in that too. Super says, speaking of Disney, did you hear about the lawsuit targeting Iger, Chapek, and a top financial executive where they are accused of insider trading? Clownfish TV is covering it. Dude, they should. And honestly, I think that they should be sued for failure to uphold, fiduciary responsibility? Because some of the decisions that they're making are clearly against the interests of the company. Steven, your thoughts on the NFL team Eagles rejecting to visit the White House after being invited due to the Super Bowl? I hate when teams, I don't care about the whole tradition of visiting the White House in general. But at the same time, the fact that they are, by doing this, they're making it a political statement is what they're doing. I think that this is going to harm them more. And keep in mind, you're still going to have individual members of the team that will go to the White House. This happens, I think, every time. Whenever there's a team that wins something and the team makes a group effort to say we're not going, there's almost always at least a few players that end up going anyway. Because it's like, hey, screw you guys. If you don't want to go to the White House and meet the President of the United States, I sure as hell will. How often do they get to do that? So I think there will probably still be some players that go. Hardwick. Multiverse stories are rarely good. It would be better to just bring back Sam Raimi and make Spider-Man 4. I would disagree. Doctor Strange, Multiverse of Madness. I know that he had some influence from studio, but guess what? The studio behind it would still be Marvel in many ways. Jimmy A. Avengers movies could bring back character people liked. Hugh Jackman's Wolverine is in the MCU now. Deadpool is too. Granted, I don't think that they could make a PG-13 with those two. Agreed. But I mean, yeah. I mean, think about all of the characters that people like seeing on screen. If they were to put that out there, and if they were to put some effort behind it, they could do a lot of money. Now, depending on what happens with the whole Baldoni and Blake Lively and, that whole thing, who knows? Caveat ties, add Banna and Norton Hulk. I wouldn't add Banna because that Hulk movie sucks. But Norton, I could agree with. Jimmy A. Also, they could put the old Fantastic Four minus Johnny because of Deadpool 3. In addition to the new Fantastic Four, Affleck's Daredevil could also appear, and maybe Tom Hardy as Eddie Brock. There's a lot of things that they could do. Some team-ups, again, it's member berries to the extreme, but member berries, when done right, do sell tickets. I think that we saw that especially from the films that made $1 billion this past year. Guillermo Gage, the highest grossing movie in China prior to this was Wolf Warrior 2 or Battle of Lake Changjin, which was like 850 to 900 million. Nija 1 in 2019 did 700 million, $1 billion difference. Yeah, 1.8 billion. It's looking like it could end up making 2 billion in China alone. I'm sorry. I have doubts about this. Hardwick, supposedly the next Jumanji movie will be released in December 2026 and will be the final one. Interesting. Abomination, it's interesting how Captain Comrade Falcon is making the most in the United Kingdom and not China. Wonder if that's just a slow reporting or if other countries really do like it more than China. Also interesting how Italy is barely in the top 10 so far. On the numbers, a lot of good that trash talk against America did. Yeah, seriously. Here's the thing, Abomination. He didn't trash talk. I'm sorry. He did not trash talk America. People blew that whole thing out of proportion, okay? All that he was saying, he was talking to an international audience, and he was trying to say, hey, this is not just an America movie. It's about universal values. He was trying to make a point saying that this is not a movie that you have to be all gung-ho about America for, because guess what? If you're not American, you don't care about that stuff. He was trying to sell the movie to them by saying it's about universal principles, universal values. He was not trying to denigrate America. I think people grossly misrepresented what he said. And this is coming from somebody who's clearly not a fan of this movie and is calling out how much money this movie lost. But I'm so tired of people pushing that narrative. Okay, no. And the other thing, too, is, I'm sorry, most people have no idea that happened. Most normal audiences have no idea that he went overseas and tried to sell a movie. And again, it was really a nothing burger in the first place. So, yeah, he didn't trash talk America, dude. I'm sorry. Like, come on. Come on, man. Super, I believe fiduciary responsibility is actually the other part of the lawsuit. It all kicked off when Chapek got caught trying to cover up how much they spent on Disney+. Interesting. Wayward Noodle, I put a big event at the bar in Vegas called HyperX, which is a part of the Luxor. No, you're not going to the meetup, but it might be a good spot in Vegas for it. Holds 1,000 any interest. I mean, if I was a part of the planning, I unfortunately am not. But definitely reach out on social media to the guys that are going. Wendy Hunter, so true. Member berries, they equal money. Yep. Absolutely they do. Guy, the movie was also released during Chinese. Oh my God. Okay. People, I don't care about Nisha. I don't care about it. I'm just going to be honest here, because at this point, all I know about it is that the biggest news story about it is that, oh man, China says it made $1.8 billion. That when you lost me when it says China says. All right. so until people are going to say, hey, the movie's actually really, really good, and we're talking about like legitimate, people here and not the Chinese Communist Party, then maybe I'll listen. But anyway. I hear the Eagles are going to go. Yeah, I mean, so that was the report I saw earlier. So it could very well have been that was a false report, just like we had the false reporting about Anthony Mackie. Abomination, I think it doesn't matter what he meant. American values are American. To pretend that there are other values worth having which are not American is nothing but trash. No, it's not. Abomination, dude. No, it's not. It's not. If you are talking, if I'm someone selling a product and I'm in Italy, I'm not going to tell Italy, you need to watch the movie because it's about America. America is awesome. That would not connect with them in any way. So instead of by saying, hey, he's called Captain America, but these values of America are so much more beyond just the name itself. It's universal values that anyone from any country can appreciate. That's essentially what he's trying to say there, okay? So no, he was not bad-mouthing America. He's not trash-talking America. He's trying to sell his movie to a non-American audience because if they hear America, 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 it's going over their head, or it could also have I don't want to see that because I don't really care about America. Whereas if they hear it's about this and this and this and this, I like those things, I might want to go see that. So you're correct to say that it clearly didn't work very well as far as his marketing in Italy is concerned, but please stop framing it as attacking America. Again, people falsely frame that. People took a clip out of context and turned it into a nothing burger. And I'm just, it's like one of the things where it's like, I can't believe people are still pushing this. Steven, who do you have to reach out to on social media to see if you could be included for the Vegas trip, brother? What do you mean? What? I don't know what you mean by that. Oh, man. Again, I'm not going to, no. So if you meant like, no, I'm not going on the trip. All right. So I'm not a part of that planning process anyway. But especially because I can't go. It's, again, always in the worst time of year because it's in the middle of a quarter of teaching, for one. And also the meetup's always in like the middle of the week, either on a Wednesday or Thursday. I can't make any of that work. Too far, too expensive to either drive or air travel, too long of a period of time to get there, amongst, again, many other things. Hardwick, America being awesome does connect with Italians, or at least used to. That's how spaghetti westerns began, Italians being fascinated by American Old West. Yes, back a long time ago. The relationship between us and a lot of other countries is not as good as you think. Steven, will you be reviewing for Andor Season 2? Not officially. I mean, I know that we'll be watching it for Friday Night Tights, so I might mention it briefly on a stream, but I have no plans to do full rejoice there. Kevin Jackman, I agree. Odin, again, I'm just trying to be honest, people. King Remsky, China should also do the Captain Marvel totals too. Am I right? Disney wishes. All right, I am well over time tonight, everybody, so thank you very much for watching. We talked about a lot of things tonight, especially those numbers for Captain America. Brave New World, just awful. There's just no way around it. The fact that there are still any persons out there that are trying to argue that the film is somehow successful in any way, or is going to make its money back, or some have said it's already broken even because they don't understand how anything in the box office works. It's kind of crazy. I'd recommend not only to watch videos like from my channel and Valiant Renegade's channel and many of the others who cover the box office, but even just having a simple conversation, right, with an AI tool like Grok, can I think really benefit, basic math and basic box office calculation skills. So that's what I would recommend that you do. The Raven Awards, they are indeed coming up on Sunday, so please make sure that you get your ballots submitted. Again, I will try to make sure that everything is open and is available not too long after the stream is over for those that have been hoping to be able to submit their ballots this evening. Again, unfortunately, someone had to try to ruin it for everybody else and just be a complete jerk about it. So I will try to make sure I'm able to get all of those extra fake responses deleted, so that way y'all will be able to get the correct real responses in. and not have to worry about anything like that. So that's actually reminding me just to get in and to take care of all of those. So again, the person who keeps on doing it, you're just being annoying at this point. So please stop. And yeah, so y'all should be able to do that after the stream is over. Let me just take care of that real quick. And there we go. All right. So again, vote for the Raven Awards. You have until Friday evening to do so. Ravens Bowling, if you want a chance to win some Blu-rays and 4Ks as well, check out the link for that on social media. And get that submitted when you can. Saturday evening will be the cutoff for that. And then whoever has the highest scores will be able to choose from a selection of movies, including films like this, Constantine, on 4K Steelbook, amongst many, many others. So before going off, let's just get these last things out. Guillermo Gage, I don't currently trust that Zootopia 2 will live up to the original. Might dumb down the allegories by including non-mammals. Slower year for movies in general. I mean, yeah, I liked the first Utopia, so we'll see. Wendy Hunter says good night. Jimmy A says good night. Past 9 p.m. Okay, I'll do that question next week. Yep. Steven, can you post the math meme one more time? I love it when you do that. Not when you beg for it, man. Schmackstick? Steven, where's Raven Bowling link? I don't see it. I posted it earlier, and it's also available on social media and in the Discord server. Hardwick, speaking of AI, Elon Musk showed a screenshot of Claude AI saying that Joe Biden is the current president, having been inaugurated for his second term. Oh boy, that's fun. Anyway, you guys are all amazing, beautiful people. I have to head out of here. I got to rest my voice a little bit and get a little bit of dessert for my evening. You guys are great. Have a wonderful rest of your evening. And as always, God bless. Vote in the Raven Awards. God love you. And now for a huge special shout out to all of my Chosen of Valhalla members, starting off first with my people on Patreon, Father Luca Illick and Miss Martin Muses. Check out her YouTube channel by the same name, Miss Martin Muses. Also to my Subscribe Star people, Matt317. Check out his Twitch channel by the same name, Matt317. And lastly to my YouTube member, Mr. Roy. Shout out to you, good sir. And if you want your name shouted out at the end of every live stream and video, check out the top link in the video description below where you get access to that. Also, you get access to a plethora of other things. You get your name listed at the end of every live stream and video, like you saw in those names that came up before this video started. And also access to a giveaways channel that I host over on the Discord server where I give away 4Ks, Steelbooks, Blu-rays, all kinds of stuff. So check that out if you're interested in that. Also, I have an exclusive podcast that I hold at least once a month, and it's always a good time, and you get extra bonus content with that also. So if any of that sounds interesting, again, check out that top link in the video description below. You guys are all amazing, and beautiful people. Have a wonderful rest of your day, and as always, God bless.